Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to r/PettyRevenge, where people get little wins on those who've wronged them, and the stories are super satisfying, not to mention hilarious. And in this episode, guys, OP deals with an entitled family who keeps using his private property as their own free parking. And guys, I'm still laughing at the outcome. I hope you enjoy the stories today. Hit subscribe if you haven't, and as always, you can send or link your Reddit post to this email right here. Okay, so here's the context. I work at a hospital as a lab technician. Our hospital site is near the city center and quite old, so there's no real parking lots, and not many parking spaces are available. So between students, patients, hospital workers, and people coming and going for different reasons, it's nearly impossible to find a spot after 8 a.m. Since I work in a small team of 4 and the evening shift, and I'm also on call for any emergency, we have one reserved parking spot. There's a sign saying that it's only for on-call lab technicians from the department, and there's a chain with a padlock in front of it. It's located between a fence and another building's wall, right next to our lab. There's also another team in the lab, and we sometimes let them use the parking spots when we have others available, or when we come using public transportation, but otherwise, we do not share it. So here's the story. A few weeks ago, I started doing the evening shifts. Usually, it's from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., but it can last much longer. I was also on call, so I took my car to the lab. So I arrive at 9:45, went to the reserved parking spot, but the chain was down and the spot was taken. Now at first, I thought it was someone from the other team, but I didn't agree to share the spot with anyone and I didn't recognize the car. So I decided to just park right in front of it, horizontally, so my car wouldn't be on the road. That way, the other car was stuck between the wall, the fence, and my car. Now at first, I was thinking I would move it as soon as I found the colleague, and he agreed to let me inside my spot. But it turns out, the car did not belong to anyone from the lab. One tech had witnessed the lady parking in the spot around 9:40. When he opened the window to tell her to not park there, she just said, "I'm in a hurry, I won't be long," and she just left walking fast. I checked to see if there was a phone number left on the windshield that I could call, but nothing. So we decide, you know what, my car is fine where it is. It's not on the road and it's only blocking her. At this point, I don't have time to go find another parking spot, which would probably be at the other end of the hospital site. Plus, I have a sticker on my car saying I can park at some places in the hospital for emergencies. So the day goes on. I had almost forgotten about it until 4 p.m. when someone calls the secretary. The lab's phone number was on my sticker. It was a lady, wondering why there was a car blocking her in. It turns out she was also a hospital worker from another department. She had arrived late to work and couldn't find a place to park, so she took the chains down and she parked there. And I had no idea how she got rid of the padlock, but it was old and weathered, so it might have just broken. She had just finished and now she wanted to leave, but she couldn't. First, the secretary, who's a nice woman but not known for her calm temper, berated her by phone. She then connected the lady to our phone, where my colleague did pretty much the same. Next, another colleague went out to check on my car. According to said colleague, she looked relieved, as she thought he was gonna move my car. He just told her how it's illegal for her to park there, and now she had to wait for me, or we would call and have her car towed. Meanwhile, I was in the middle of a complex procedure that required me to be in a white room, which is a sterilized room with controlled atmosphere, a sterilized blouse, etc. So I couldn't just leave what I was doing like that. She was forced to wait. The woman called twice more to complain that she needed to leave. And twice, she got berated by my colleagues until one of them told her to stop calling, or they would involve the hospital security and actually get her towed. In the end, I got out of the white room at 5:30. My colleagues and I thought it was enough, so I changed myself, and as slowly as possible, I took my time to get everything in order and let everybody know in the building that I was going out for 5 minutes. And then I finally got out. The woman was visibly pissed because it was almost 5:45 at this point, but the threat to get her car towed might have stuck because she didn't say a word to me, except a passive-aggressive "thank you." By the time she got out, it was almost 5:50 p.m., so she waited a little less than 2 hours. Now it could have been way worse, since I ended my shift around 7:30 that evening. So far, no one else has parked on the spot except us. Yeah, so I'm always surprised at the entitlement of some people, guys. Like, if that woman had the nerve to unhook a chain that's meant to say, don't park here unless you should be parking here, then she deserves the 2-hour wait. And honestly, I would have loved to have read that her car was towed, but blocking her in was funny as heck, guys. And I only wish OP's colleagues all repeated what she said, saying, "Ma'am, we won't be long." And while we're on the topic of people parking where they shouldn't be parking, guys, listen to this next post. So yesterday, I went to Walmart to see some jerk decide to take his huge, giant truck and double park illegally on the handicap spots, with no blue placard. Another car was parked in the no parking area. So feeling petty and also pissed off because what if a handicapped person needed it, I decided to call the non-emergency police line to report the violation, and to give both plate numbers. So the cops arrived pretty quick, and I told them what I saw. They also confirmed that there was no handicap placard for the truck, and they let me go on my merry way. An hour later, as I'm walking out, I see 2 tow trucks getting the illegally parked vehicles. It's at this moment the owners happen to come out, and I'm close enough to hear them yell. Of course, both try to argue, and cops tell one person, "Ma'am, this isn't a parking space. There's plenty of open spots further down." To which the woman goes, "But it's too far. I've only been gone 5 minutes." The guy in the truck also says he was gone for 5 minutes. And the officer says, that's funny because we got this report over an hour ago. And sir, do you have a handicap permit? And that's when the guy yells, "No, I don't have an effing permit. Do I look like a damn cripple to you?" The officer looks like she sighs, and then she writes a ticket and hands it to him, and he turns bright red and screams, $2,000 effing dollars? Are you effing kidding me? She then says plainly, "Take it up with traffic court, sir, not me." The other lady got fined $500 for illegal parking, and both vehicles were towed, leaving the owners calling people to come get them all. I walk off to my car snickering to myself, and then drive home. So the moral of the story is don't park illegally, especially don't double park in handicap zones. Oh my goodness, guys. Like, taking up one handicap spot when you don't have a placard is already a pretty a-hole move, right? But to double park a big giant truck, taking up 2 handicap spots, like, are you guys shaking your heads as much as I am at this? I've had a lot of issues for years with one of my neighbors parking their cars on my driveway. To be very accurate, it's not their cars, but it's people visiting them. Typical family. His father in particular is very annoying and also particularly indifferent to my complaints. The neighbor himself is actually okay, and we get on well enough. A little bit about my driveway is my driveway is wide. It can fit 4 cars easy, and 6 cars if you pack them. So I guess the size of the unused real estate was tempting, considering how lazy and entitled people are. They can park their cars about 60 yards away in a small parking area, but no, they choose to use my driveway. Last year in particular, my neighbor's father would park there anytime, for any reason, even when I was home. The guy's getting old. He's like 75 years old, but he's not senile, so this is just pure belligerent, entitled behavior. Calling the police also isn't helpful, as they won't do much. The police have said things to me such as, "He's an old man," or "It's private property, we can't tow the car. You have to get it towed at your own cost," etc. Now in general, this isn't a problem that they're very interested in, and I'm not keen to really push it that far. The old guy parks there because it's a shorter walk, and it's how we did things in the old days, he says. Well, last year crossed some lines, so I did get a sliding gate installed this year. It's a really solid one, commercial grade, on rails, with steel bars. Now honestly, I didn't really want this gate, but given my driveway is quite wide and they won't stop parking on it, I was just about done with the constant annoyance. Well, Christmas 2022 came around and we went to visit friends. Last year, they were at our place, so this time it's their turn. But I did forget to close the gate. Well, one thing worth mentioning is that there's a switch on the wall. The switch closes the gate. If you press it, it closes, but it won't open it. To open the gate, you need a key, the remote, or to open it from the inside of the house with a code, for security purposes. As it's December, it also gets dark around 4:45 p.m. Around 5 p.m., I get a message from my neighbor. Actually, I get about 10 messages. And then a phone call, and he's in panic mode. I checked my video system to see what was going on, and what I see there is absolutely glorious in its splendor. So his father parked there around 2 p.m. Then around 3 p.m., some other family members came and parked 2 cars on my driveway. Around 5 p.m., when it was dark outside, a 4th car with guests pulled in. Obviously looking for a light, someone pushed the button and that gate closed and it locked, and we won't be back until Tuesday. The phone call was hefty, but I knew it had to be direct, and I told them that they knew not to park on my driveway and they did so anyway. And now, one of them has to make the 4-hour drive to where we are to pick up one remote, and then drive 4 hours back on Christmas Day. Now, I don't even know if this counts as revenge, as they did absolutely everything by themselves, but it sure feels like revenge to me right now. Yeah, so I think if I were in OP's shoes, guys, I would not give them the remote at all. Like, they knew not to park on his driveway as it's private property and continued to do so, and they especially took full advantage when they knew OP was away for Christmas, so they deserved being stuck there. I would have just ignored any calls that came my way and let them call police and explain why they were trapped on someone else's driveway without permission. Okay, so I got mad all over again writing this because of the sheer amount of disrespect from Total Wine management. I have the receipt for the order too. So there was a specific wine that I used to pair with food. The closest Total Wine that had it was a 60-mile drive away, and it was storming out, and I did want it for the holidays, mostly because I was going to be cooped up inside. So I drive over, and this used to be my typical Total Wine until I moved 2 counties away. Anyways, I go inside, pick up the wine, and get some other stuff for the holiday parties. I was in there maybe an hour, and it comes time to check out, and that's when the cashier asked for my ID. So I give her my ID, and then she tells me that she needs to see the ID of the other person I was with. So now I'm confused and say, I'm alone. And then she says, well, I'll have to go get my manager. And I'm thinking, okay, fine. So he comes out to tell me that she told him that I was with someone, and they need to come back and bring their ID, or they won't sell wine to me. I told him that I wasn't with anyone. And then he asks to see my ID. He looks at it and says, well, unfortunately, you look pretty young. And at this point, I'm like, are you serious? And he's like, you can come back tomorrow alone. Now, I find it extremely disrespectful to tell someone that they look young while you're holding their ID in your hand. And not to mention, I've been shopping at this exact location for about 4 years, and I've never had a problem. So I told him how I drove there, and I've been shopping there for years, and that I even have a second form of ID. And he was just kind of giggling and saying, no, he doesn't believe me. So I left very angry, and it was late, around 9 p.m. I then had the hour-and-a-half drive back home in the rainstorm. So I was home pissed about it all night, and the next day I went to the one closest to my house to get the other stuff I was getting. Unfortunately, that one was out of the wine. That's why I didn't originally go there. They were pleasant as usual. Actually, they were beyond nice, and they didn't even ID me as I'm a regular, which just goes to show that the other location was on some kind of power trip or something. And then I got an email from them to review my experience, which they do send every time I go there, and I never do it. But on this day, I decided to select the location I had a bad experience at and give feedback on it. So I wrote exactly what happened, and the next day I got a call from the store manager. So it turns out the guy that night was an assistant manager or something. However, he was much more pleasant than the woman that called me. The woman was extremely rude and condescending, and she told me that she reviewed the cameras and that someone walked in with me at the same time, and that made us a party. I told her I didn't even know them, and that's when she said it doesn't matter. And I asked, so apparently people can't walk into Total Wine at the same time as you? She then said that the employees were watching me, and that person left 30 minutes before I went to check out, and they saw it. And I'm asking, okay, so if that's the case, and that's your policy, why didn't you say something when you saw the person leave, and we could have cleared up the whole situation right then and there, instead of allowing me to continue to shop for another 30 minutes and waste my time? I told her if that's the case, someone can't leave a store, and she said no. To complete the transaction, they would have to drive back with their ID. And this made me extremely angry because even if that's the case and that's your policy, at least you can offer an apology for the inconvenience or something. not just call me to argue and stir the pot. I was kind of already over it because it had been like 2 days now, but her whole attitude and nastiness about the whole thing was really insult to injury. So I decide to look up their policy. And their policy clearly states that this only applies to parties at the checkout. The rule is whoever's with you at checkout, which makes sense, or at least is more understandable. Another policy I read, which was interesting, was that any online order not picked up within a week, they will issue a full refund to your original payment method. So my friends and I were sitting at home, drinking the stuff I got at the other location later that day, and I told them what happened and they were all shocked. Now, I used to work retail for a long time, specifically during COVID, and I know what an inconvenience it is to set up a big curbside pickup order, because they take up a lot of space on the order shelf. So being drunk and mad, I felt petty and decided to enforce their own policy on them and make a $10,000 order for the soonest possible pickup time, which they promised orders ready in 3 hours. So I made sure to order the cheapest, heaviest bottles I could think of so it could take up an enormous amount of space in their curbside. And only made sure to order like 1 or 2 of each, so they couldn't just give me a case, they had to get individual ones. I also ordered their whole supply of Tito's since it's popular and the holidays, and I know people are gonna be looking for it. And this Total Wine has its curbside order section in the front, behind a counter where everybody can see it. And I know when customers see it, they're gonna ask for it, and then employees will have to explain how someone ordered all 238 bottles and they're back on reserve, and then they would probably get grouchy and ask for a manager. But the manager would be busy because I also made sure to order a lot of bottles behind the glass, so they would have to run around with their keys, scrambling to get the order ready. I've worked retail, and I know how much stuff like this throws off a schedule and annoys the managers. So I loaded up the carts and stopped when I got bored and placed the order. I got the email confirmation, which specifies that you have to wait for the pickup confirmation email, and that pickup times aren't guaranteed, so I thought for sure that they were gonna cancel the order or call me or something. And something interesting that's sent with the email is a pickup policy that states specifically the recipient of the order needs to be 21 years old. So you can have other people in your car not 21. Well, 5 hours later, I got the pickup email, and it took them longer than I thought, but I was still surprised. And then later, I got a pickup reminder email. Then 3 days later, I get a second reminder. Then 7 days later, I get my final notice email. And then on day 10, I get a phone call. It was the manager acting like a completely different person this time, asking when I was coming in for the order. At this point, I think she knew I was effing with them because it had been 10 days and she knew my name from the previous feedback thing. Because when she called, she asked for me by name, and my name was on the order. So I told her, yeah, I went to pick it up and I was told I looked too young, so I just went to the other Total Wine and I picked up the same stuff there. Of course she was mad and she says, "Are you seriously not coming to pick this up?" I respond, "Nah." She just hung up. When your higher-up asked you why the store had to refund someone $10,000, you can explain to them what you did. They were supposed to automatically cancel the order at the 7-day mark, but she called me at the 10-day mark. So I called their customer service line to cancel it, and she told me that some stores do wait till the end of the month to do it, and I'm assuming the manager was trying to hold out on refunding to end the year on a better number. Retail does do that, but I made them cancel it right then. Guys, OP is god level petty. Like, making a $10,000 purchase just to be petty is freaking amazing. And OP does post proof of purchase right here, guys. Insane amounts. And I agree, what the employees did was so stupid, and at that point, I think I would have called police to the liquor store to verify that my ID was in fact real and that I'm allowed to legally make the purchase. I would have made those people look so dumb at that point. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our /Petty Revenge. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's super satisfying stories. I hope it made you laugh a little bit. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/entitled people, where an insane Karen neighbor tries to sue OP for fake damages to her property. It's such a wild story. So go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.